There was an election in Virginia, and the Republicans won. Team Red won over Team Blue, and the media fallout from it is something that I think is beautiful, and I thought we'd go through because it's just good fun. Because we're talking about here the corporate press, the mainstream press, whatever the hell you want to call them, these guys who are paid and bought for to sit there and tell you Dem's good. And of course, Fox News exists, and no one else claims to be the left-wing version of Fox News. CNN here, for example, the neutral and objective CNN, who are totally not just blue Fox News. No, of course. No, except when they admit it live on TV, because every time they lose an election, they forget themselves. So let's play this first clip of Van Jones admitting that CNN is just Democratic Fox News.
This is a big deal. These numbers are bad. This is not some. These are our voters. These are voters that came to us in 2018, came to us in 2020, and have abandoned us in droves in 2 states that should be in our column. That's a big deal. That is a 5-alarm fire.
I mean, could you get any more nakedly partisan an admission?
Yeah.
I mean, we all knew, but it's very good to have it, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, him saying our party, these are our voters.
Yeah,
Who left us.
Yeah.
Who's the us?
Yeah.
CNN.
And he's supposed to be a newsreader. Well, I mean, he is a newsreader.
He's a host as well.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
one of the main faces of CNN, though. So Van Jones saying all that. They also continue arguing, in which they go on to talk about critical race theory in that segment, in the full thing. And they argue that Republicans just hate black people. That's why they hate black nationalism. I'm not sure that works. I don't think hating white nationalism means you hate white people. But okay, apparently in reverse, that's the position. And to demonstrate this, we have Grabian, who do just a great job of scouring the news and collecting all the bits, because I know how just mind-numbing that can be at times, especially when dealing with corporate stuff. And they did a good summation of here that we cut down, and I thought we'd enjoy that, which is that loads of different press outlets just saying, yeah, well, we lost. Why? What are the reasons? What did we learn? America's racist, that's why.
So they lost because they kept banging on about, racism.
All white people are racist. That didn't work.
and
The reason we lost is because all white people are racist.
Yeah. And bear in mind, this is a seat that was won by the Democrats, or this, whatever place. This was won by 10 points by Joe Biden. And it's already, so they had a double-digit lead.
And now it's
managed
flipped.
to flip that. Yeah.
So let's play this.
He did stoke white grievance politics to mobilize the Republican base.
He's laundered Trump's really sort of disgusting, flagrant out racism. He's wrapped it in education.
Education, right, which is code for white parents don't like the idea of teaching about race.
That's the fundamental problem for these parents and this anti-CRT movement. They don't like the way whiteness is being portrayed in these new, more inclusive lessons.
The subtext of all this was, we can't let these black and brown people run the country.
I think all the CRT stuff is trumped up dog whistling.
Some of it was dog whistle racism.
The dog whistle messaging that you saw Youngkin engage in during the course of the campaign.
This is about the fact that a good chunk of voters out there are okay with white supremacy.
That's the narrative.
That's insane. I mean, the people who are they say a dog whistle around racism. That's not coming from the Republicans. That's coming from the Democrats. The Democrats are constantly banging on about, using racist as a pejorative to attack people when they're not racist.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't get this is typical shtick, right?
Yeah.
Just call the Reds racist because Republicans racist, and that's the wealthy. That's the campaign strategy. What I love is just this specific series of campaigns, though. Of course, if we get this one up here, I mean, we just have the let's say Republican propaganda here. America choose wisely, and if we can click on this, John, you can get the Republican candidate versus the Democratic candidate. This is the decision in one of the races. I mean, this is the decision you got. You got the Republican there on the left with the gun, and then you got the Democrat on the right with his blackface and Klan hood, and this is him at a Halloween party, apparently. And it's
held at Justin Trudeau's house by the looks of it.
I know, right? But you could not get a worse campaign to try and just argue racism, racism.
Yeah.
And then we lost. Wow, racism. What are you talking about? She won.
Yeah.
No, duh. She won.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable that they would try that tactic.
But then the left would say she's got internalized whiteness or something.
Yeah, she is white because she.
I
mean, that's the funny thing. They mentioned in that segment in there that they were saying that white people can't handle the way whiteness is being portrayed in these new and inclusive spaces in which we live. the way whiteness is portrayed in critical race theory is like some demigod of an institution. I mean, they define whiteness as like hard work, speaking properly, being wealthy, having power. And it's like, right, okay, so white is basically just being successful in their view. It's like, I think black people can do that too, which is why they end up calling people like her, you know, the poster ladies of white supremacy, or Larry Elder, the poster boy of white supremacy, was the black face of white supremacy because he's successful.
And that's why the Democrats are losing the voters of color, to use their parlance, so the Hispanic vote, which the Democrat strategy has been for, so you've got a lot of young voters, a growing young voting population. They thought that was going to carry them, and in particular, the growing Hispanic vote. They thought that was going to carry the Democrat vote.
Basically, white.
They switched way away from the Democrats, and because they identify a lot of Hispanic people have got traditional family values. They work hard. They own businesses. So those are fairly right wing values.
But also this particular race was hit along the lines of critical race theory specifically, and we'll demonstrate that in a minute.
Yeah, which is hugely unpopular with a lot of.
What's the argument to brown people? It's that you're inferior, you're victims of the system, therefore come with us. And it's like, I'm not inferior. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get stuffed.
And coming up with terms like, so they came up with Latinx. So this is a gender-neutral term for Hispanic people who are Latina or Latino, and it turns out that Latina and Latino people perfectly happy with Latina and Latino. They didn't want some like white gender studies graduate coming in and being like, oh no, you're Latinx.
Get out the slipper
you're
and
gender
hit the
neutral.
child.
You know what I mean? We're helping you. We're giving you this gender neutral term.
Yeah.
So wasn't as popular.
So the thing with critical race theory as well, as I mentioned, it being the primary issue on this election, by the looks of it, by the polling at least, is we actually have a nice little beef fight going on here as well. Tulsi Gabbard versus the Young Turks, which
love her.
Was not expecting. So Tulsi Gabbard here, and you can see her typing out that the loss is a victory for all Americans, the Democratic loss. Why? She's a Democrat, remember?
Yeah.
Because it was a resounding rejection of efforts to divide us by race, the stripping of parental rights, and the arrogant, deaf leaders. This benefits us all, and then massive support for her for making the obvious point that, the promotion of critical race theory within my party is destroying it.
Yeah.
It's why we're unpopular. People can't stand us the way we talk about race, never mind the fact that we bleed them over the head with it every 2 minutes. And quite frankly, if we lose elections in which that's the big issue, and we're on the side of promoting it, good, because I want it out of the party. And all glory to her. What's the response? Basically a right-winger now. That's what she is. So we go to Cenk. Yeah, sorry, I don't have Cenk yet, but we go to the House Republicans pointing out that, yes, she's right to say that it is the main issue, as just by the polling, as we have talked about previously. You can see here just Fox analysis showing that it was the top factor for a quarter of voters, 72% saying it was important. I mean, you think, usually the economy is the thing that gets that kind of polling. No, this got that kind of polling. And if we carry on, we have, of course, the Democratic candidate who decided to come out and say that you had no rights to what your kids were being taught in the classroom, and then insisting that everyone clap that, which... Well, they ain't clapping now, are they? So if we carry on, so if we go to the last one here, we have MSNBC responding to all this as well. I don't know if I did throw in Cenk or not. I assume later on I did. I did. So we'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, so this is MSNBC responding to the whole situation. So we have Tulsi making the point, which is that this election was about critical race theory.
Yeah.
People can't stand that. You can see it just by the response as well. What was the problem? Well, people just hate us because they're racist. And it's like, no, they just oppose your race nonsense.
Yeah.
MSNBC responded by saying that critical race theory wasn't real. So let's play this clip.
I think we know the answer to some of this. I watched Glenn Youngkin's interviews on Fox News, and he did nothing that he did not. I mean, he worshipped at the altar of Donald Trump on Fox News. He flew an insurrection flag at his rallies. He simply didn't. He played dumb about a Zoom rally. He did not really put much distance between himself and Donald Trump on the big lie or the deadly insurrection in which police officers were maimed by flagpoles. So I think that the real ominous thing is that critical race theory, which isn't real, turned the suburbs 15 points to the Trump insurrection-endorsed Republican. What do Democrats do about that?
I love it. It's not real. I'm like, okay, that's going to be convincing. I mean, the fact that you people were coming for people's kids turned the suburbs 15 points, as she's saying. But if we just say it's not real, we'll get them back. Not a strategy. Not going to work. But of course, we have that. We also have the rest of MSNBC being the left-wing outlet for this. And of course, you have Joy Reid, who has spent all her time trying to jump in the front of critical race theory to defend its honor whenever it gets pointed out that it's absurd. And we'll play this next clip of her trying to defend that.
Do you adjust with this new propaganda, disinformation, barely veiled dog whistle race stuff? Or do you keep trying to fight on, policy?
This is the problem with Democrats. They want to do the latter. They seem to believe that if they just do Google good government policy, that somehow people will understand that they are better for them. It's better for you to be with us because we're going to give you this policy, this policy, and this policy. While the Republicans are fighting with a sledgehammer, they're using like a blowtorch, and Democrats are coming out with like a fork. They don't understand. And Democrats also, I hate to say this, and it may sound mean, but the Democratic Party has not developed the reflex of defending black voters. They don't know how to do it. Even though African-American voters overwhelmingly, and brown voters, and all voters who are in a minority, they don't know how to openly defend them because they're so afraid of offending that suburban white voter who might be uncomfortable on race. And they're so desperate to get back to be able to win white voters again. They don't have the reflex and truly don't have the language to robustly defend their core voter. They haven't been able to defend them on civil rights legislation. They prefer to just drop the entire attempt to pass voting rights and really defend it. And on critical race theory, you have to come back with something and have an answer. Yeah. They haven't figured out how to answer this racist truth.
I mean, I love that. It's a weird admission.
Yeah.
It's essentially, look, like we get hammered on critical race theory. This election, we got hammered on this thing. And we need a response to that. And when the Republicans turn up and say, hey, this is evil, stop teaching in classrooms, stop trying to push it on kids, stop trying to push it in the workplace. And the response from the Democrats is, don't really know what to do. They can double down, which makes everyone hate them. Well, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then Joy Reid noticing, so I've spent my career for the last 4 years or whatever it is for her, just promoting this stuff, defending it. And they're slowly realizing that, actually publicly, when we try and defend this stuff to voters, it don't work.
Yeah.
And the Republicans have really got us.
Yeah.
I mean, this election being the prime example, as she points out herself, which, I mean, amazing that they have that level of self-awareness at least, but that they don't have an answer. They don't have an answer at all on how they're going to defend themselves on that basis. I also love she tries to put it in the words of like defending the black community. Black nationalism doesn't defend anyone.
Yeah.
In the same way white nationalism doesn't defend anyone. It's a waste of time. Anyway, so if you want an insight into critical race theory as well, of course, we have this premium podcast from Carl. He's been going through the Bible. I'm sure he's shown you it. And this is just an overview of all the essays in there, so go and check that out. But if we get to Cenk Uygur, which I was mentioning, Cenk Uygur responded to Tulsi pointing out that, yes, we need to reform if the left is ever going to mean anything ever again. Cenk Uygur response, Tulsi Gabbard is obvious right-winger now. And so anyone who is still a fanboy of hers, turncoats like this, who are clearly doing it for the money and attention, are truly sickening. Critical race theory isn't taught in any school in Virginia, you effing obvious liar.
Jeez.
For daring to say that, hey, you know this thing that the parts of the left keep promoting, and I'm still in it because I'm a Democrat, says Tulsi. I think we should get rid of that so the Democratic Party could be popular or useful or do anything good.
Yeah.
And the response is, nah, right-winger, get lost. And of course, he's obviously just lying. We have Nuance Bro pointing this out, which is good, so if we go to the next one on this. Nuance Bro pointing out that, well, yes, in 2015, you have the documents because people keep leaking that you keep saying things such as we need to embrace critical race theory in order to re-engineer attitudes and belief systems. You can see in these, if you scroll down a little bit more, the highlighted parts there of the document. Anyway, that's enough of that. I thought we'd enjoy some fan fiction real quick.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fan fiction coming out of CNN as well. So Brian Stelter specifically, who decided to respond to all of this by saying it was an assault on democracy. As in, they lost, therefore democracy ends, because this is the game that American politics lives in, which is, that game. Anyway, so let's go through his clip here in which he says that what Trump is going to do, turning up.
Well, one way to do it is by mapping out the road ahead. So let's take a look at the stops along the way, because so much of what might happen in the next 3 years is sadly predictable. Imagine it's 2022. Right-wing media keeps pummeling President Biden, weakening him, calling him a tyrant 1 minute and senile the next. Donald Trump is in complete control of the GOP, and his entire political existence is premised on the big lie. He launches his own version of Twitter, and he streams a talk show on the web. And to quote Save America, red states continue to place new restrictions on voting rights. Now imagine it's 2023. Trump officially announces he is running again. New fan groups organized in private Facebook groups. They call themselves the Trumpets. They pledge to share only real news about the candidate to get around the CNNs of the world. Of course, their real news is largely misinformation. Beatings at rallies, bombs at newsrooms. The bombs don't explode, but that's beside the point. Fear is the point. They start to publish explicit enemies lists.
And this
landlords board up downtown windows. Maybe looting starts, shooting starts. I'm not saying that all of this will happen, but I'm saying it could. We know it could happen because it has all happened before. Almost everything I have described has already happened.
Yeah, it has, Brian.
Yeah, but not by Republicans.
It happened in 2020. I don't know if you remember, when the shooting starts, is a quote from Donald Trump talking about the riots that the BLM types and the Antifa types were doing across the country.
Yeah.
I mean, he's saying it could happen. Not saying it's gonna, but remember, it might. And it's like, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
2020 and in 2016.
Yeah.
You do this every single time. It's like clockwork at this point. The only other part in that doesn't seem to be the case is him saying that reporters are going to get sent bombs and beat up. I love how he's sort of like, you know that meme where the guy sets up a bunch of like paper fire and then sits in the corner going, help me. Like, I'm in danger. That's it. He's just like, yeah, but what if people start sending bombs to my office? Tee-hee. Like, it hasn't happened, mate.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know what you're doing, but okay.
Yeah, and this sort of fantasizing, like everybody said when Trump got elected, it was, he was a fascist leader and it was going to be, and it just didn't. It didn't happen like that, you know what I mean? He's quite an entertaining leader.
Yeah, I mean, actually competent as well, which is the
I don't know if competent is the word I'd go
compared to
for.
What?
But
Compared to what, though? Compared to Joe Biden's performance?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, if you're talking about performance, I mean, what he did
That's what I'd get to.
He freed the market and gave loads of tax breaks. So it wasn't, wasn't him. It wasn't his policies so much as his lack of. I think it showed that government works best when it's not doing anything, when it's not getting involved.
Largely, yes, but it's also there are a lot of decisions you have to make at the executive level, regardless of your ideology. That's easier to say. So instead of, regardless of that, so for example, the Keystone XL pipeline or all the rest of it, I mean, the energy independence that he got for America, which had been working on for a while, but he was the one who finally got it there. Biden killed overnight. I mean, just de facto did. I mean, that's an achievement you can point to that has been destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's one version of fan fiction, but there was also another bit in there that I found funny, which is he mentions that Republicans are going to change the laws at state levels to try and like rig the election or something. He's like, oh, okay, where have we heard that before? And I remembered it was actually a segment from Bill Maher, which we can't play because of copyright concerns, but I'll go through just his thinking in here. It's his dark prediction for 2024. Ooh, what are the Republicans going to do? Here's how he moves. So he says,
made up stuff.
There's a slow-moving coup going on, he argues. First thing is that Trump is purging all the anti-Trump conservatives, such as Liz Cheney, and then he's going to fix the elections at the state level by changing the election laws. Right? What was the accusation against the Dems? We'll leave that there. And also then that Kamala Harris will be in the position that Mike Pence was in.
Yeah.
And she should overturn the election because, quote, the difference being this time the results really are phony. Right, okay. I don't think I like Bill Maher. He's an interesting character. He's able to pull out BS on the left. But I couldn't go over how in this segment, and people really should go watch the full thing. It's a shame we can't play it because of copyright. He literally just argues. He goes through and he's like, so the Republicans are going to do these things that they accused us of last time. And then what we should do is what Mike Pence didn't do. We should just overthrow it because we believe it's phony.
Yeah.
Like the level of like, I don't care. I'm just gonna say, okay, Bill. I mean, that's where you're going with this. Whatever.
And Trump's the one destroying democracy.
Yeah, remember Trump was trying to overthrow the country, and the glory of Mike Pence saved the republic. But if it was our guy, lass, we should just do it. We should just ignore the result. Okay, radio. And that's the slow-moving coup by Bill Maher. I love the fan fiction. Anyway, we'll end this with an interview which Donald Trump gave in regards to the election going on.
A couple million a painting.
He was talking about Hunter Biden's getting paid ridiculous, so he's just going to take up painting and then charge a couple mil a painting just to make a point. And it's go for it. Why not? Yeah. A couple million views on this.
I'd like one.
Yeah. So anyway, Trump's been giving his interviews about this.
I'm looking forward to the Hunter Biden film. So Lawrence Fox is playing Hunter Biden in a forthcoming film. Yeah,
I thought it was just amazing. A Halloween piece.
I've seen, it's going to be amazing. I've seen some pictures from the set, and it looks hilarious.
I'm looking forward to that.
It looks brilliant.
Anyway, but I'll give you the summation of this interview because again, we'll probably get copyright strike if we do. Which is my expectations were low, but holy F, everything's gone to hell.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the fallout from the Virginia. You can see the corporate press and also Donald Trump having a good time again, which is. He seems to be having a good time these days.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this clip from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. We broadcast live on lotuseaters.com at 1 p.m. UK time every weekday. And we also have loads more content that we don't put on YouTube, such as the memes and video comments from our community. Every week, we also have new episodes of our regular series, Contemplations and Epochs. In Contemplations, Josh explores interesting and diverse topics, such as the science behind the need for fathers in the home, or why people believe in ghosts and the paranormal. In Epochs, Bo and I go on, often at length, about various events and periods in history that are particularly fascinating. We've just finished a 5-part mini-series on the 100 Years' War, which I particularly enjoyed right up until the end of it when, spoiler alert, the French won. Alongside our excellent team of in-house writers, we also commission articles from outside contributors, and silver and gold tier subscribers have access to an audio recording of each premium article, so you don't have to read it yourself. We interview various contemporary thinkers and entertainers, as well as host the recordings of our live events. We also have a series of premium video content on the site, which we think is particularly worthwhile, or we simply can't put on YouTube because their editorial policies prohibit reasonable discussion on the subject. Personally, I think the deep dives we've been doing into critical theory and critical race theory are most important, as we reveal the origins of intersectionality and the plan that the radical left has for our societies. We are funded almost exclusively by our subscribers, so if you'd like to join us in the work we're doing, head over to lotuseaters.com and we'll see you there.